Madam Chair, can you hear me okay?
I surely can.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. I have a question for Mr. DeYoung in regards to HR 980 that will lock up about 100,000 acres of land. Mr. DeYoung, do you think the federal government will stop here and not lock up more land should this legislation be signed into law?
Thank you for the question. We're presently at 70 something percent here in Josephine County that's already controlled by the federal government. We try to work with them at every corner because we have a lot here to preserve. But as I said before, the devastation of the forest management in our area and the impact on the economic value it cuts so deep. I think I can if I just were to put something in perspective, before the spotted owl and we were on timber receipts in just did some history in the 1974-75 budget. We received somewhere in the neighborhood of $11,076,000 from timber receipts and ONC8 distributions. That in today's dollars, at the county level, in today's dollars, that would be $56,474,000, approximately 1/3 of our total budget here in Josephine County. As it is what we receive both with forest payments and secure rural schools, which we get from Senator Merkley and his efforts to kind of repay us, help us along the way. In 2020 through 2021, we received roughly $3.7 million total, which actually comes out to 2.2% of our budget. So you can see that the timber situation went us from 34% of our budget to 2.2%. And we think that now that we have the discovery of tellurium here, rather than even get started on maybe putting us back on the road to recovery to get more of our needs here taken care of with our natural resources here in Josephine County, we think that's going to be just the beginning of it, and it'll just continue to lock up more until all we have is residential and farmland.
Yeah, I think I didn't have a chance to hear your oral testimony, but I read through some of your written testimony, and it appeared to me you were saying that you had numerous sawmills out in your region, including Josephine County, before the forest lands were shut down. Is that correct?
Yes, in fact, when I was a young man, when I was 14 and 15 years old in the summer, I used to work at Angler Houston Mill stacking pre-cut studs. When the spotted owl thing came along, we were trying, let's see what we can do to preserve this. But I just want to know, I want everybody to look up what's the result of all the shutdown of the forest and habitat, creating habitat and preserving habitat for the spotted owl. The spotted owl is still on the decline. And I think it's more of a predator problem with the barred owl than it is a habitat problem. We've been doing it this way for 50 years, and it hasn't gotten any better. So I just want that to be known.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Mr. DeYoung. I would just share the story here from northern Wisconsin, where we have the Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest, where we did a detailed study on the reduction of harvest on the Chequamegon-Nicolet over the last 20 to 30 years. And my estimates come out to about $250 million worth of value were left behind. But also, one of the 99 state assembly districts that are in Wisconsin, I used to represent one of them when I was in the state Senate, because the assembly districts were included in my Senate district. The second greatest loss of population was in one of the assembly districts where the Chequamegon-Nicolet was so important for timber harvest, and we saw many sawmills, much like the story you're telling from Oregon, that closed up. So a tremendous value that was lost, and this continues apace. And I would just say to this committee that we're going to see the same thing here in the upper Midwest. When we think about the tremendous reserves that are in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan in terms of our mineral wealth, and I would say people should really pay attention to what's going on in Josephine County, because I'll guarantee you with the current mode of operation of the majority party in the Congress of the United States, they're going to try to lock up even more of this land, which we've seen the incredibly harmful impacts that have happened to the economy, but also the environment. Because one other story that's really interesting coming from the Chequamegon-Nicolet, as a result of this old growth mentality, not harvesting trees on time, we've seen a reduction in the golden-winged warbler, which is an early successional bird species that has seen its number approaching where it's being considered for the endangered species list. And that's because it does not have good habitat anymore, because of this preference for moving to old growth rather than having a good reasoned schedule that was used for decades to manage our forests here in America, including our national forests, and that's all went by the wayside. And I would just close with this.
Tiffany, your time has expired.
Yeah.
Your time has
Okay. I would
expired.
just say this to you, Ms. Daggett.
Your time has
that
expired. Mr. Soto, I'm going to recognize you for 5 minutes.